Hello.
Good evening.
Welcome to Testimony Tuesday. I feel like it has been so long since we've been on. I know that it hasn't been that long, but it feels like a long time. And so we are super excited that you all are joining us on today. As I'm messing with stuff, just X off right here. All right. Thank you for joining us on today.
Yes.
We are excited about our episode on today. Yep. We're excited about our special guest that we have on today. And so, we are super excited. Thank you for joining us on today. I can't tell who is on, of course. But like June said, you can like, tag, and share.
Hey, Nika.
Hey, Mickey. Hey, Nika. I can tell that you all are on.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and share this to your page. Yes. We have an amazing testimony on today, and someone definitely needs to hear. Hey, LaShawn. Hear their story on today because they have an amazing story. Now, before I even jump into this story, maybe I should save this for the end about my little idea that I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it at the beginning and at the end. What do you think? All right. So this is what I want to do. Hey, Mickey. Hey, Nika. So I want to do a contest. We want a theme song for Testimony Tuesday. So if you know any amazing singers out there that can sing and make a theme song, we're going to do a contest.
Yeah, who got them vocals?
So if you know of anyone, just tell them, hello, Kimberly. Just send them to us. Hey, Chantel. So if you know anybody, please let them know. Inbox me, and we're gonna see about it. Maybe like a 30-second snippet of something. They get to write it, and whatever. 30 seconds. I'm super excited. Aneka, this contest is not open to you.
What's up, Anthony?
Hey, Anthony. Aneka, please don't you submit yours, okay?
Send it, girl. Send it.
Don't send it.
You can do it.
Okay.
Hey, LaShawn.
All right. Hey, Chantel. So we are going to jump right in on today. We have Christopher and Jocelyn Hardy with us on today. They are from right here in Henderson. Is that correct? Both of you are from Henderson?
He's not. I am born and raised.
Born and raised. I knew you were. Where are you from?
Well, where did you start?
Until the fourth grade, I lived in Holliston.
Oh.
Okay.
Dad's family.
Okay.
So, I think, fourth grade. I've been here since the fourth grade.
Okay. So, you're close enough to be kind of like a native, kind of Warrenton, Hollister.
I would think so.
I'm just saying. So, we are excited to have you both on today. They have been married for 8 years. They have been together since the 9th grade. Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. And so they have one son. How old is he? 12 years old, who just successfully finished his school year. Amazing. And you work for Vance County Schools as a job coach, and you work for the Rec Center as an administrative support specialist. So we are super excited. But most of all, you all love God.
Yes.
And that is amazing, amazing, amazing. So we are going to jump right in. Yes, because I didn't.
Yes, the reason why we're here. Yes.
And so Testimony Tuesday is a platform where we just share the goodness of the Lord. We talk about what God is still doing in the earth, because sometimes you think that it just happened in Bible days and that he's still not healing or delivering and all those things, but he's still opening doors and making ways right today.
Absolutely.
And so this is a platform to share what God is still doing now. And our scripture is Revelations 10 and 11.
Well.
Revelations 12 verses 10 and 11. And it says, right. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto death. Yeah. And so there is power in the testimony. And so we want you to take us to March of 2021. And this was a time when the world had literally shut down. Kind of. It was trying to reopen a little bit, but take us to March 2021. You have to talk loud too.
Well, before I went to Vance County, I drove dump truck.
Okay.
That was my thing. And I was working with a company out of Raleigh. And I can't remember the exact date, but it was just one day I went to work, I was feeling fine. I did 2 loads of asphalt and the job cut off. And when I got, it was probably like 45 minutes away maybe from where I parked it. And I got back to the yard and I just said, you know, I don't feel good. It wasn't a like I need to go to the doctor or nothing. It was just like I just don't feel good. Mm-hmm. And I came home, and when I got home, I don't know if he was feeling bad either. I don't think we all started feeling bad until maybe a couple of days later. But you know, with COVID being around, I didn't think I couldn't get it.
Right.
But I was like, it's been over a year, and I go to work every day, and I'm everywhere.
Right.
I mean, I wore a mask, but I'm everywhere.
Right.
So I didn't really think it was COVID, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But when she said she can't taste nothing or smell, mm-hmm. I was like, man, we got to go to the doctor now. And so I think I called my mom. I know my mama and my daddy took us, but I can't remember who called who.
Right.
I just know they went with her. We went to Vance Family Medicine, and we got tested, and we went home. And then when I read, you know, they emailed it to you, I read it. I said, man, we got COVID. So it kind of was like it wasn't a shock, but it was like, where do we go? You know, where do we go from here? Or, you know, you start researching stuff. And then, back then they were texting you. Like once they saw you read your results, they would text you like a whole list of stuff from the CDC. And you were reading that and you're like, man, I got to do this for 10 days, 20 days, whatever day. But we never made it that far.
Wow.
And I don't know, you know, when you can call and make the appointment, because even with me being sick, she really couldn't be sick because she know I wasn't gonna call nobody.
Right.
And she was like, well, I'm gonna call and get you an appointment. And she did, and I went, and I came out the hospital probably 3 months later.
Wow.
From that day that I went to get the infusion. Mm-hmm. So from that day that I came, from that day that I went to get the infusion, I didn't come out the hospital until June, the week before Father's Day. Well, the week of Father's Day.
Yeah, the week of Father's Day.
Wow. So Jocelyn, he goes into the hospital for an infusion, and then they end up telling you what?
We curved him on a Wednesday. He was supposed to get something called the BAM infusion, mm-hmm. For COVID to put in antibodies because mm-hmm. they consider him to be high risk.
Right.
Me and his grandmother went and dropped him off at the old part of the hospital. Mm-hmm. By the time I got back home, they were calling saying that he was going to be admitted because his oxygen level was hitting almost below 80.
Wow.
And so when we carried him to the hospital, that was the last time I got to see him until April.
Because at that time they weren't letting anybody in the hospital.
If you had COVID, you couldn't have no family with you, unless it was the end of life.
So did they allow you to do video calls?
When he was out of it and didn't know he was here, once he got transferred to Wake Med, then they had an iPad set up beside the bed. Okay. And I would talk to him through the iPad, but he was heavily sedated. Didn't even know he was here.
So he goes into the hospital for a treatment. So you think they end up telling you they're going to keep him. And in the process of them keeping him, then they turn around and transfer him.
Yeah, he goes in on a Wednesday. Now that I think back on it, he was talking foolish, but I didn't pay no attention. And they said it was because his oxygen level was so low. Because he kept calling like, I'm in here. He kept fiddling. At that time, he had him on the BiPAP. He kept messing with the BiPAP, kept taking it off himself and messing with it. And he was having some problems going to the bathroom. And I'm like, this ain't him. He's not a violent person. He's a gentle giant. Right. He was getting rough. Okay. And so they had called and was like, if he doesn't cooperate, we're going to have to sedate him. And so we talked to him, Friday night? We talked to me, my mom, and my dad, and my aunt, all us FaceTime and talked to him. And he was like, I'm coming home Monday. And I was like, okay. Friday night, 2:00 in the morning, Dr. Singh called and said that he had took a turn for the worse and that he had to be intubated. Wow. And so I'm like, I just talked to him last night. What do you mean he has to be intubated? And he said he has to be intubated, and I'm going to tell you now, he's probably not going to make it. All this is over the phone.
Really?
And I'm like, you who? So I'm at home by myself because me and my son got COVID. Yeah. And we're supposed to be isolated. And I called my mama and my dad, and I'm like, they talking about he gonna die, he ain't gonna make it, he on life support. And my mama said, you sure? Yeah, they said he's on life support. So at this time, he was the driver, I wasn't working. And so I had to call somebody to come and get me like Kirby and Mariah Perm. Man, because somebody finna tell me something. Right. I'm finna lay eyes on him and you finna let me see what's going on. Right. So I went to Mariah Perm and they ended up letting me on the floor he was in. I couldn't go in the room, but they have the rooms where it's like a little room before you walk into the room. Yes. So I could see from that door that he was intubated. I was talking to the nurse, and 10 minutes I was up there, one of the nurses was in there giving them medicine, and they was giving them something called propofol. And they hadn't got the dosage right because of his size, and he woke up. He started fighting. Wow. While I was there, and the only thing I was like trying to holler through, Chris, please stop fighting these people, because he was pulling for the tooth. Oh. And he was confused and didn't know what's going on. He had all the strength in and scared the poor nurse to death. And so it all started from there. My whole family was outside. That night I went home. I couldn't sleep. About 3:00, his grandma came to the house and stayed with me because I was like, I'm tired, but I'm scared to go to sleep because they would never call to us in the middle of the night. So they called again and said, we transferred him to Wake Med. He's going to be life flighted to Wake Med. So he was life flighted to Wake Med on the 27th of March. And I went to Wake Med, checked in a hotel the same night that he got there because I couldn't see him in Wake Med either he had COVID. And it took them some hours before I can get an update. When they finally called, they were saying, they had him heavily sedated. He was still on the vent, but for some reason he wasn't tolerating the vent. It was like he was fighting against it. And so evidently some things went on. Mariah Perm wasn't capable of, because of his size, to actually get it into where it was supposed to be. So it took them a little while to figure that out. By the time that Tuesday roll around, they're calling and they're saying, he's stable, nothing's changing. It's just really staying the same. This was at the end of March, about maybe a week before Easter. It was a Friday, I remember. We was at the hotel. They called and said that his kidneys had started to fail. And that I needed to give consent for him to be able to put him on dialysis. So this time I'm like, what do you mean his kidneys and his failing? So by this time his kidneys had failed. He had 2 pneumonias, MRSA, as well as COVID pneumonia.
Wow.
In his lungs. And he was fighting against that. 2 days later, they called him back and they had said that he started to get a rash on his neck and they were watching him. They didn't know what it was. And in a matter of 24 hours, that rash started on his face and it turned to burns. He was started a medicine called vancomycin and Mariah Perm that they did not know he was allergic to, and he was allergic. And so it caused burns to come over 50% of his body. So now he's fighting COVID. He's fighting 2 infections in his lungs. His kidneys is failing, and I didn't really know until they were explaining, but your skin is an organ also. So he's got 3 major organs that are failing him at this point. And so he's steadily declining. Wake Med don't have the necessary supplies to be able to treat his skin because they're saying that, it's continually to fall off. They don't have the stuff, and they even try to order stuff from Amazon to treat him for his skin. UNC wouldn't accept him. The burn center wouldn't accept him at first because he was in such critical condition and they wanted him to be at a certain place before they would accept him. But it got worse, and then they were in talks with me and them and UNC. It was his mama's birthday, April 12th, that they called me and told me that I could come and see him.
Wow.
That the COVID was gone, but they didn't want to tell me over the phone. When I got there, he was back in isolation. He had got some type of infection. His blood pressure was low. They couldn't stabilize his blood pressure.
So he's at Wake Med now?
He's at Wake Med now. Okay. And the doctor says, Dr. Bull, I'll never forget. She asked me how long we've been together, and I was telling her, and she was saying, it's hard for me to tell you this. She said he really needs to be transported because there's really nothing else that we can do to treat him for his skin at this point, because it was literally white. Like it looked as if somebody had, when I seen him, it looked like somebody had caught him on fire. Wow. And she said if we transfer him today, he will die.
My God.
And he coded.
Wow.
And they asked me, what do you want us to continue to do life-saving measures? And I said, absolutely. I want you to do everything that you can to save him, because he's going to be okay. God is going to heal him. No matter what you say, they wanted me to start him on palliative care. Wow. And I'm like, no, I'm going to continue to pray. I know what you're saying. Yes. But I know what God is going to do. Yes. And so I didn't know what palliative care was. And I told my mom, and she said, I'm just going to make him comfortable. There's nothing else that they really are going to do for him now other than make him comfortable. So we're going through all of this. That was the 12th. A couple of more days pass. He comes out of isolation. They move him back to the COVID hall with the regular patients, and I'm able to actually go in now and touch him and seeing he's still out of it and sedated. And it was a Sunday. I went and the whole family was outside, and everybody was looking crazy. He was hooked up to so many machines. His stuff had to be out in the hallway.
Wow.
And he had a thing on that looked like a necklace, like a breastplate they had all the medicine that they were giving him. And at that time, she said they was giving him every type of blood pressure medicine that they could to keep his blood pressure stable. And when I went in, they were checking behind his eyes, and they didn't think he had no brain activity. And she said he hasn't did anything for us all day. She said when you came in, you saw me looking, we're not seeing no activity. And I'm like, I'm by myself in this room with these people. And I'm like, Chris, babe, I'm right here. Like, you got to fight. You have to. Me and CJ need you. What? I don't know nobody but you. You got to be okay. I sat in there probably about 30 minutes to an hour. They came and checked him again. They $3-4 came in there. They was all looking crazy. I'm like, what's going on? They looked again. They was like, he hasn't had no type of activity all day long.
Wow.
He must know you here. And from that day to that one, he still wasn't up. He still was heavily sedated. At this time, I was the only one that could see him. His parents could come and see him. They wouldn't let CJ see him. But it was so bad, they got strings pulled. And he got to come up on, I think it was like April the 20th. They got the hospital administration to let him come in. And he came in and saw him. He said, and he talked with him. And on April the 21st, I was on my way to Wake Med, and they called and said, Ms. Harder, you can head to Chapel Hill. He's being transferred to the burn center today. So he left. He started in Mariah Perm, got transferred life flight to Wake Med. Then on April 21st, which is my brother's birthday, he was transferred to UNC Chapel Hill JC Burn Center. That's when things started to turn around. Once he got to the burn center, he wasn't up, but he was still on 24-hour dialysis. But they was able to control his dialysis better because they needed to know how much he weighed to know how much they needed to put in him, and they didn't have an accurate weight at Wake Med from the time that he went in. So this was at the end of like April 29th. He got his trachea in. He was supposed to get it before then, but he didn't want to cooperate. His stats started dropping, so they couldn't do the surgery when they wanted to do it. So he ended up getting it on April 29th. Mind you, before the surgery, he was still out of it. He was still just laying there with the tubes and stuff in him. They told me that after surgery, he would be out of it. He would still not be alert, that they was going to gradually wake him up, and they didn't know even how he would be, that it would be a year more before we would see some changes because he was on so many drugs that they was like, they're going to have to gradually wean him off of the drugs. But none of that had to happen. When he got out of surgery that day, my mama carried me up there to Chapel Hill, and they finally got him back to the room, and they came and got me. He was looking. He still couldn't say nothing, but them eyes was open. And I was like, what the dialysis machine? I seen some urine in the bag on the bed. They was like, oh, he been off the dialysis machine since this morning. He's making water on his own. Wow. And so from the 29th, he started making his own water. He came off of dialysis. They didn't have to start dialysis anymore. Nothing is wrong with his kidneys. He did have an adrenal issue, but that God corrected that as well.
Yes.
So the first time that I heard his voice was May the 6th.
Wow.
I walked in and I had a Whitney Houston shirt on. And if anybody is fans of Martin, if you remember episode where they were selling shirts for a concert, bruh man, and they didn't say Whitney Houston, they said Whitney Hutton. And so I walked in and he said, got a Whitney Hutton shirt on.
Wow.
And that was the first time I heard his voice. And like I said, that was May the 6th. And he talked that day. I called a couple of people. He talked to his friend Dwayne, his best friend Cliff. But the next day I went, he had went back down. He had did too much that next day, so he didn't do too much talking. He hadn't got his voice box yet, but he could still, he could talk, but it was like, how when somebody has a trait, how it is.
Yeah.
So that was the 6th. Do you remember anything when you was waking up?
Yeah, I can't talk.
He was hot. He was hot, but in the midst of all that, he got what do you call it when your blood is get infected? Most people don't. Septic.
Wow.
He became septic. After he done got up and doing better, so we had to go back into isolation again. Had to mask the gown up and do all of that. He started doing therapy. He couldn't move, couldn't walk. They had to have him in a special bed. UNC Chapel Hill got him to where he couldn't use his hands and stuff yet, but they were working with the therapy, and he got transferred back to Wake Med because I didn't know, but they had a deal that once they got him up and stable, he had to go back.
Okay.
They got a deal on me.
He had to go back to Wake Med, so we went back to Wake Med, and he stayed there for another 2 weeks or so, and then he stubborn, and he couldn't. He kept saying, "I can't feel nothing," and he heavy, so he was so worried about them dropping him that he wouldn't. Let me see. He was giving the therapist a hard time. Very, very, very hard time. He was angry, didn't want to do therapy, so they wrote him off. He a big guy. They kept saying, I guess they thought he was at home, like people be on the show, like 600-pound life, like he didn't work, he didn't do anything. And I kept telling them, no, I don't do anything. I don't work. He's the provider. He works every day. Like they didn't believe nothing that I said, and by he wouldn't cooperate with them, they wanted him out.
Wow.
They wanted to have him transferred to a rest home, and I said, I'm not sending my 32. He was 32 at the time, I think 2 years ago, 35 now, 33. I was like, no, he's not gonna go to no rest home, because if he go to a rest home, he probably gonna end up being in a rest home. And we went through all the politics of the doctors and all of that. I started calling rehab places myself to try to see who would accept them. Nobody would accept them when they heard his size.
But we had two though.
And then he wasn't
two.
moving. We ended up with Rocky Mount, but I couldn't get to Rocky Mount because I didn't drive. And Mariah Perm. And I was so scared for him to go back to Mariah Perm because, I probably shouldn't say this. I was like, no, they don't like to kill him one time. I'm not gonna let him go back to Mariah Perm. No. But it ended up being that was the best thing for him to go back to their rehab, because their rehab was absolutely amazing. They had a guy there named Nate. He pushed him and wouldn't take no excuses. And Merle, and they got him back on his feet. He was in Mariah Perm almost a month.
But their whole physical therapy team is awesome.
Right.
Because you got to look at my first week there, Nate, he was the head guy, but he was scheduled to go on vacation because it was his birthday. So I had got kind of comfortable with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lady Marilyn came in. She was just part-time.
Mm-hmm.
But her spirit and her will, she wouldn't take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And she would do stuff that you hated, but it helped.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with now, I still have problems with neuropathy.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't stand nobody to touch my feet, like barely. I'm touching her arm. I was like, man, don't even look at my feet.
Right.
Because they
Right.
hurt. And she took a rag every day and do like this on my feet.
Wow.
And then she would do like this. And then she would get rough.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, I gotta desensitize.
Right.
So
wow.
She pushed me hard, and then when I started to be able to stand up on my own, she would kind of pat me on the back and say, see, your wife the only one that I'm the only one that can do this to you. So she would make it better. So like she said, we didn't want to go back there, but everything happened for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best place for me to go because really they would have kept me for 2-3 months.
Right.
If I needed to.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting out in about a month or a month.
About a month and a half. He got out, came home. We had a celebration for Father's Day, just in time for Father's Day and Juneteenth.
Wow.
And then the end of June, right before 4th of July, Dr. Singh office called. We were staying with my mama and daddy at the time. We had a house, but it wasn't gonna be easy for him to maneuver because he still wasn't walking good.
Yeah.
So my mom and dad had a ramp built on the house. And Dr. Singh called and said, get him to Mariah Perm now. I'm like, for what now? And his blood count, something wasn't right with his blood. And come to find out, he had 2 blood clots, one in his leg, one in his lung.
My God.
They said we got him there just in time. Wow. And this was the weekend of 4th of July. I was like, Lord, back in the hospital again.
Wow.
I can only take so much, but I'm glad that this situation happened. I hate that he had to get sick, but I'm glad because I never was a prayer. I didn't. You know how we get when we going through, then we can pray.
Right.
Lord, I need for you to do this for me. You do this for me. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But through this whole situation, it has taught me that I have to lean, depend, and trust on God. Not Chris, because before Chris got sick, if I ate, I had to depend on Chris. If I had clothes to put on my back, I had to depend on Chris. If I had a roof over my head, I had to depend on Chris. If I needed to go to the store, I had to depend on Chris. So when he was out, even though I was 33 years old, I didn't know how to be independent. And I had to learn to be independent and to stand on my 2 feet, because if anybody knows me, knows that when you talk, people always see me and think I'm mean, I'm unapproachable, but I'm soft. If I'm for you, I'm for you.
Yeah.
And if you know me, then you know my heart. You know I'll give anything to anybody in this situation. In that time, the normal me would have been over there in the corner, balled over. But throughout this whole thing, God helped me to be able to stand firm and to know that He is God, and you have you gonna trust me one way or the other. And I had to learn that I had to trust Him, and I prayed day and I prayed night, and I would get in that room and I would lay my hands on him and I would pray and I would say, Lord, you are going to heal my husband.
Yes.
He is going to be fine. He is going to be the man that he is supposed to be, and you're going to heal his body. And he's standing right here, or he's sitting right here beside me today.
Yes.
Because a lot of people may not know or may not even need to know, but if you're going through some things in your marriage, and when me and him got sick, it was almost like we were roommates. just to be honest.
Right.
We were not in a good place.
Right.
At all. And this situation has taught me that it ain't that serious.
Right.
Like, it's not, because somebody could be here today and could be gone tomorrow. So I learned not to take the little things for granted.
That's good.
And I never question God. Everything happens for a reason. I hate that my husband got sick. I hate that he lost his life, but I'm glad we went through it because I'm a better person now. I'm not as calm as I was a year ago, but I'm better than I was as far as attitude. So I would tell anybody, no matter what the doctors tell y'all, trust God.
Yes. Yes.
With everything that you have, trust him, because they told me that I would not have my husband. They told me he was not going to live, that he was going to die. And he's sitting right here.
Yes, today. He is.
So don't let man tell you anything. You get on your knees and you pray.
That's good.
And I had to learn how they said the Bible says only some things come from fasting and praying. You're going to have to turn your plate down. You're going to have to read and know and study for yourself and trust God for yourself to know that he makes no mistakes.
Yes.
And no matter what nobody tell you, that you must trust God before you trust anybody else.
That's good. My. Look at
it's been what? It'll be just 2 years technically. And I still a walking Walmart or go to anywhere. And somebody walk up to me, man, good to see you, man. I was praying for you.
Yes.
I'm glad to see you doing all right. And I know everybody, so it was a lot. It's people that message me that in the Bulldog community or a job I had, and they'll be like, man, how you doing? You still doing all right? Like, just to have friends that you didn't even know cared about you enough to care, it makes a difference. Like, one of our friends, I ain't gonna say her name because she'll be upset. She'll be so upset, but she knows who I'm talking about. She did a lot, and she stuck by us when
we have nothing.
When after people see you woke and see you doing all right, and see me driving and still not knowing I can't walk.
Right.
Afar.
Right.
I'm riding in a chair. She still was there. My mother and father-in-law. My wife jealous of our relationship. I kind of took
her place.
My father-in-law be like, "What's up, Junior?" I'm like, "What?" He been calling me that for a long time. My parents, a lot of people don't have parents or have the parents. I may not see them every day, but they also played a big part, and my family played a big part, and just everybody that knew me, like they had a prayer vision. And for people to talk about it now, I'm like, man, what that many people do? They're like, man, you had the whole street. I didn't know what was going on. I stopped by there and come to find out, they was having a prayer vision for you. And I'm like, you was there? They were like, yeah, I was there. Or people came, like I said, people, a friend of mine's out of Durham, he sent me a lot of stuff. Like I got a lot of stuff saved on my Facebook page of when I was out and didn't know what was going on. People was commenting, sending me messages. Like praying for you, big guy. My aunt put on one of my posts, it was good to see you today. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Because I'm like, when I seen the memory, like, I don't remember this. And then I look at the 2021 and I'm like, that's what she meant. She actually got a chance to see me in the hospital. And even though I was where I was at, it made her feel good just to see, be able to see me versus having to go look at a picture.
Yeah.
And it's just good to have a wife that knows what to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
and who to turn to.
Right. Because what if she felt like being petty? Because we wasn't on terms where it's like, oh, get out of my face.
Right.
It was just more of like
we was in a routine.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I know at 5 o'clock in the morning I'm going to work, and I know I might not get home till 7 or 8. And then when I get here, I call her and I'm coming home. She gonna start cooking. I know when I get there, I gotta feed my dog. I know I'm gonna go home, take a shower, get in the bed, and go back to work the next day. So it was basic stuff. So like now, that situation, I ain't done it in a while, but 1 week it's been about a couple months ago. We all was in a mood. My son, and her, all of us was in a bad, it wasn't bad, but we was having a moment. So I wouldn't just pray out loud or just, like I told you earlier, I prayed, but it wasn't like faith.
Right.
So when I just grabbed their hands and we prayed, and it was like our day just turned around. And I think it's because of my sickness, and I don't want to be like, I still think about now, what happens if I don't have to worry about if something happens, what's she gonna do? Because like she said, she's a totally different person.
Yeah.
She really could take care of herself. She could then, but she didn't know. So now it's like everything we do it with a purpose. And
wow.
Like we try to make the best out of everything. Versus, well, you know what? We had an argument 5 minutes ago. We still gonna be mad until next week, like we would.
Right.
Or something bad gotta happen in order for us to talk. Like I never forget one time, and she might not remember, her grandma was sick. This is way before. The only reason why we started talking was because she called and said my grandma failed, and we on the way to the hospital. So who knows how long it would have been before we started talking.
Right.
And not because I don't want to, but I'm just trying to be spiteful because we had an argument. Yeah. And now we don't do that. Like if we have a disagreement, it's just a disagreement, and we watch TV.
I love it.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
We might be riding down the road 5 minutes. You know what? You get on my nerves. And then, where y'all gonna eat at? What are we going to eat at today? Or what we gonna do? Or call my father-in-law, see what he's doing. Or, we just more family. We was always family, but they got a great big gigantic family. And they cook and eat all the time. Well, my family, we love each other hard, but we really ain't gonna have a cookout. We will, but it might be like my grandma's birthday, we have a big cookout. And then we might see each other for Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Right.
But now I reach out to people that I know are my friends. I just reach out to them. Hey man, how's it going? How you doing? Because I had to reach out to so many people when I woke up that checked on me that I didn't even do still care. So I try to make it my business now to speak to everybody, talk to everybody, check on everybody. Because like she said, you never know when you're gonna wake up. If you're gonna wake up in the morning, or we do a lot of traveling. God forbid anything happen, but that's just life at this point. So we try to walk. We just try to be positive.
I love it. I absolutely love it. To God be the glory.
That's powerful. One thing I see, she turned into a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she always been, but it was like I always tell her, I said, because she done got COVID 2 more additional times.
Right.
And I always say, you keep getting COVID because you couldn't have it the first time. Because you was watching me and him.
Right.
Like my son, he got it twice, but he got perfect attendance in school. Because he, they were on Zoom.
Yeah.
So he never missed a beat. Like he was eating, fixing sandwiches, playing a game, and he got the same results we got.
Wow.
So I tell people we live through all phases of COVID because he got the no reaction.
Yeah.
She got the no smell, no taste. And I just went completely down. And I haven't had it again, thank God. But she had it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
I had COVID 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times.
Wow.
You see that?
Wow. This is such an amazing testimony. I knew and I told you that before, like watching you on Facebook and you'd update us and just we pray for him. I didn't know him at the time. But the story just like touched my heart. I was like, whoo, because I just felt like it was just hard. And a friend of mine had just lost her mom to COVID. And so to see him come out and is well and just God has healed him, what a miracle, what a testimony, because that's not everybody's story. And then when you tell the depth of the story of how much he had to go through and everything he had to go through, wow.
She got Alzheimer's though.
Wow.
Like diabetes. When I woke up, I'm like, hey, why you keep breaking my finger? Every day, I mean, every 3 hours, they was pricking my finger because they was like I had diabetes.
Wow.
I'm like, man, no.
Said it was untreated for months.
Right.
Wow.
And then after a while, the nurse was like, why do we keep checking you for this? I'm like, I don't know. I wish you would stop.
Right.
And she was like, I'm going to put the notes in. When I was in Wake Med, and the doctor said I didn't have to do it no more.
Wow.
And so I haven't done it. If I go get a physical or something, they'll do it, but it's always normal. The only thing I got out of it is bad. Well, I ain't gonna say bad because I can correct. I do take blood pressure medicine now, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
And the neuropathy, which is something they say you gotta learn to live with.
Right.
Which I have my days, but why complain? At first I used to complain.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll tell you, I'll be like, man, please don't even look at my feet because they hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But now they can hurt, and I just be like, no, my feet hurt, and I keep going. Or I sit down and rest. Or I still ain't where I want to be physically, but it's better than where the doctor said I was gonna be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We celebrate progress.
Yeah.
Cause I was back driving in December.
Wow.
Dump truck.
Wow.
So it won't like, I mean, it was hard because I wasn't used to sitting a long time like I was, and I wasn't used to. I just wasn't used to. Driving didn't bother me, but to go from life support 5.5 weeks to learning how to walk again in the spring, summer months,
Mm-hmm.
and then December months, I'm back in my truck in the same year. It's like like on my lives, I used to say, you can't tell me God ain't real. For these people out here that don't even, I don't know how you could not even believe in God, to be honest.
Right.
Because I'm just not sitting here because I was a halfway good guy.
Right.
I'm sitting here from all the prayers all over the world. Well, first my wife. Well, first God.
Mm-hmm.
Second, my wife and family.
Mm-hmm.
Third, when people pray for you and continue to pray for you and genuine opinion. Because it's like people. I called my mama's pastor, and he said, "Wait a minute." Like I could feel him on the phone crying. He said, "Wait a minute, no." Chris, I said, yeah, he was literally crying at night. He was in the background.
Wow.
And another guy, his dad died from COVID. He was like, man, I really didn't think you was gonna make it. It kind of made me upset, But then I was like, I mean, that's his dad.
Yeah.
And, looking at me, his dad probably went through a lot of the same things. And
Yeah.
didn't make it
Yeah.
where I did. And, he was like, it's just amazing.
Absolutely.
It's a hard truth. Through this whole ordeal, I heard you guys say you found God in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
You found him in a different place. Now he's in that place in your life. And as your wife said, like as far as the relationship is concerned, don't sweat the small stuff. Life is filled with swift transition. Like you said, you can be here today and actually gone today. You know what I'm saying? So when you realize that, because we pushing 28 years. So yeah, wow, I'm extremely proud of y'all.
Extreme.
28 years.
28.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like
28.
the song says, millions didn't make it,
Yes.
but I'm glad.
Yes. Guys, I'm telling you, when you go back and watch this replay, you got to read the comments because so many people are commenting. So many people are watching.
No,
2 birthdays.
So he coded on the 12th, like I said, which was his mama's birthday. They told him that he's one of the doctors told him he's one of the lucky people that he has 2 birthdays.
Wow.
April the 12th.
Yes.
And his actual birthday was December the 17th.
To God.
But the other thing we didn't talk right quick, we went to DC on our family trip. We always go on a family trip. It just so happened the day we went to the monument. And we was like, why all these white flags out here? And I said, y'all, look at this sign. It was like, how many people? I got it in my phone, but I probably won't be able to find it. But it was like all the thousands of people who died from COVID.
Wow.
And we didn't plan to go. Like it was a memorial for the whole
Yeah.
weekend, and you could write on them. I never did write on one because, like I said, at the time I was in a wheelchair, and we had been all over the monument.
Yeah.
So it was like, I want to write, but I don't think we had no pen. And it was just, the flags wasn't but this big, but it was so many of them that you couldn't even, like, just to see them as we read the sign.
And to know there was somebody's loved one that did not make it.
Wow.
Those flags, every one of those flags represent the person that I died from COVID.
And it was up in the cloud. It was like, it was way up there. It was way up. Matter of fact, I got it right here. 670,032.
Wow.
That was just, and they was like, they could update it.
Wow.
Like they had a way they can go and update it, and it's like, I'm in my wheelchair and all these flags, and that's nothing. Like that's just the background. They was everywhere.
Wow.
Like you can see them. Like
wow.
And they made it to where if it was someone that a loved one that you lost due to COVID, you could write a message on. And we didn't have to do that.
Y'all did not have to do that.
So it's like,
that's a testimony within itself.
When I think about it, I be like, man, that's crazy. And it's like why would we pick DC out of all weekends? Because we normally go to Myrtle Beach.
Wow.
So we was like, let's go somewhere different. We went to DC, and that weekend was, I guess it was just a memorial for those COVID. To God be the glory.
And I just want to say thank y'all for having us on, because they say that people are overcome by other people's testimony.
That's right.
So I hope that somebody has gotten something out of this today.
Absolutely.
That may be going through something right now. Don't have to be COVID, but it could be a type of sickness. Maybe you and your husband arguing, you and your spouse arguing.
Yes.
To know that things will get better, can get better.
Absolutely.
You just have to trust and believe.
Absolutely. And I think that was so powerful, that you brought that out of how just living together, kind of like roommates almost. And then when this happened, it put everything in perspective, and it just changed your relationship for the better in the way that you all are now, and how you talked about, if it's a little off, pulling your family together. Come on, let's pray to get it back right. I think those are key things. And just the power of your testimony altogether, everything that the Lord did for you. God is not a respecter of person. So if he did it for them, he'll literally do it for you. So whatever situation you may be facing on today, God will do it for you as well. It is, and so like I'm looking at Corliss, she wrote up here about how she was praying for you, and it's just so many other people who have, just commented. So you all have got to go back, read the comments, because people have been blessed. We've been blessed by your testimony.
Absolutely.
Well, I used to joke around and say, man, when I go to the doctor, because I used to have to go to the doctor, I'm a celebrity. They're better than me. Stop joking all the time. Like, you got a reason to laugh.
Yes.
And I like I said, I want to thank on the live now, because I was gonna do a video myself, but I didn't.
Okay.
Anybody that prayed for me and my family, whether you gave monetary, you prayed, you thought about me, whatever it was, I want to appreciate everybody. Like I said, it's a few people that I mentioned. A young lady, I didn't want to name her because she's the type of person that she been doing stuff for us for a while. So, but it's a lot of family members that I think you guys, and I want to tell a friend of mine that's been going through something. Michael Bullard just went through something.
Yes.
When I saw his pictures, it kind of took me back to where I was at.
Yes.
And I saw how his wife was. And, I just want to tell him to keep his head up.
That's right.
And her to keep her head up. And their family to keep their head up, because, what he went through, is similar to what I did.
Yes.
But his prayers went through a lot quicker. He a good guy. So,
But to God be the glory. Thank you all so much for joining us on today. It was amazing. Your story is amazing. Keep telling it. Keep telling your story, because it definitely has helped so many. Guys, thank you all for watching on today. Join us next week as we jump back on again next week. And I want to announce one more time, if you are a singer,
Where your vocals at?
and you have a song for Testimony Tuesday, we're looking for a song.
Can y'all sing?
Well, let us know. Let us know if you got some 30 seconds of a song. We're looking for it.
Yep.
So to God be the glory. Again, thank you all for sharing your amazing testimony with us. To God be the glory, because this definitely shows. There's a scripture that talks about whose report will you believe? We believe the report of the Lord. And I'm so glad you fought as hard as you did and wouldn't take no for an answer. And that's one thing I think we need to do as a community, like fight for your health. Don't allow them to just tell you whatever, but you have to fight for it. So guys, thank you all.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
And
That's
go
right.
to the doctor, man.
And stop being stubborn too.
Yes.
Yes. Guys, thank you all for watching. We love you. Good night.
Good night.